Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gray Zone. We have 3/4 of our crew with us today. My name is Raouf.
My name is Silas.
My name is Rob.
And we just finished watching...
Just finished.
5 minutes ago.
Finished.
The film that everyone has been talking about recently.
But
Sonic the Hedgehog.
No.
Sonic the Hedgehog. So Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
In an interesting turn, maybe the best movie of 2020. But you know what the best movie of 2019 was?
What was that, Rob?
Actually, Boof. What was
Boof?
it?
So we just finished watching Parasite.
Juicy.
Now, there's a couple of reasons why, right? As of when we're recording right now, last week it won the Oscar for Best Picture, which was the first non-English film to ever win Best Picture in 94 years.
That's really impressive. And on top of that, I thought it was a pretty decent film. And it deserved pretty high remarks for sure.
I agree with the sentiment I heard the other day. So I watch a lot of League of Legends, and they have a lot of Koreans, so they talk about Korean culture a lot. And even before the movie won the Oscar, a lot of them were saying, like a lot of the casters were saying, just shut up about the subtitle thing and just watch this movie. It's a great movie. And I think that goes like underrated, because I've watched quite a few films, a lot of actual Spanish films, that are really good, that people don't watch because of subtitles.
Well,
and this is one of those movies where you should just shut up and
watch it.
just read. It's not that hard.
Director Bong Joon... Oh, God, I'm like... His first name is... Or the first part of his name is Bong, so rip some bongs for Bong, first of all.
Bongs for Bong.
His quote about the film was, once you get past the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles...
It's Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho. Once you get past the 1-inch barrier that are subtitles, you will be able to watch so much more great films.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yes.
It was a really good... That's a really great quote, because that's how this movie makes you feel. It's
And
so
thankfully,
good.
we're all weebs here.
I was
so
gonna-
we
I was
don't-
gonna say-
We all already read
Thankfully, we
for
all
way
watch,
worse plots.
Yeah, we all watch Japanese anime, sub or dub, subs better in most cases. So we do have a tendency to have the subtitles on. And then in general, I think that this is a generation of just people who watch Netflix and stuff with subtitles on.
So I'm going to preface real quick as we hear a bunch of random noise. One of our cats is down here with us, and he also watched the film, so he is qualified to sit and...
He's our honorary member of the Grey Zone.
Yes, except not when he plays with the annoying parakeet.
And
toy.
he is both black and white.
Oh.
So the greatest of cats.
Yes.
Very great. But yeah, so I think that, going back to what I was saying, I think that since we come from a generation that has subtitles on, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen the memes of, like, keep the subtitles on. This is a house that watches in subtitles, so learn how to read. Like, I think that
Some dubs are good, though. Just
okay, some dubs are good, but what I'm saying is that people will literally watch, like, in English, in native language, Netflix series, so that they can enjoy it while reading it. And I have bad hearing, so I sometimes need subtitles.
So we've gained literacy through television.
It's
ironically.
2020, people. We can read.
Yes. You know, I'm actually watching another show right now, too, called Dark, and that's all in German. And you need the subtitles to watch that as well. So,
Deutsch. But let's start. I watched the film yesterday, and this is my second time watching it. Rob and Silas, this is your first time.
Yes.
So I want your just gut reactions.
I thought it was a really good film. I mean, it's not a novel idea. I've seen it played off in, like, cartoons and such before, where a family comes in.
Actually, real quick. This is probably going to be Spoiler Town.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Spoiler alert,
yeah.
101. Also,
Go see the movie.
Yes.
Go see the movie before you watch this.
this is 428. Anything past 440, we're going to be in Spoiler City. So,
Yeah. Summary, go watch the film. Don't read anything about it. Just go watch it.
yeah, it's better if you don't read anything about it.
It's like $4 on Amazon Prime.
We can go into spoilers now.
440, it's spoiler time.
Yes.
That dude should have died, first and foremost.
Okay, you're in the wrong end of the spoiler. We're doing gut reaction on the film.
Gut reaction. I'm sorry. Gut reaction. I liked it. I've seen it. The plot played off in other forms of media before, where a family comes in and then they try to, like, take over the house and try to live in there. I've seen that in cartoons before. It's not a new plot, but it was definitely well done for what it was, for the movie itself.
My gut reaction would be excellent camera work, beautiful, like the way everything looked was really nice.
Yes.
It ran really smooth. The plot was, I agree, the plot was, I don't want to say it wasn't super original because that like makes it sound bad. But I've seen similar, right? But not as well executed. And my other, that would be my summary. Yeah. It's just, that was extremely well executed. And some parts are mildly predictable, which you guys sat there with me as I said.
Right.
Like, oh.
Yeah. But it kept me on my seat, too. It kept me on
and the ending is a lot.
Yes.
Like,
the ending is a lot to take in. Like I said, that dude should have died. That dude got double tapped by a rock.
So, I'll say my gut reaction yesterday was I left the movie theater stuttering because I think this film is a masterpiece. And
really?
Once, as we break it down, I think you'll start to see why.
No, I agree. I think it was one of the best movies I've seen. So
I wouldn't go so far to say that for me personally. However, I want to hear what you have to say about it, Booth.
All right,
so,
so it's genius on two levels, I think. When we talk about a lot of films with a message, quote unquote, right? Mm-hmm. I find a lot of times they tend to be kind of dry, kind of boring, right?
Absolutely.
And if you don't resonate with the message, you're just kind of like, okay, but what else does this movie offer me, right?
Yeah, right.
This movie has, I think, what's a pretty clear message.
Yeah.
It talks a lot about class division, right?
Right.
The title Parasite, at first glance refers to the Park family.
Right.
That takes over all these jobs, right?
Right.
And how
are you talking about the swindling family?
Yes.
The swindling family wasn't the Parks. The Parks were the people living in the
yes.
Yeah, it was the other...
The Kims.
The Kims, yeah.
Yes, the Kims are the swindlers.
The Parks
are the rich people.
Being swindled.
Of course, the thing is, so I had read ahead of time. I didn't know what the premise of the movie was, but I knew that people were talking about it as a critique of capitalism.
Yes.
And when I walked out of the film, I was kind of like, okay, but how? And the thing is, it's a lot less... It's not as kind to the poor as a lot of those kinds of films about capitalism are.
Yeah.
And it's not as mean to the rich, so to speak.
Yeah, you put the rich in a kind of good light.
Even the main dad dude, the main Kim, he was like, well, they're nice people. They're, you can stop there. They don't have to, they were getting into that one point when they were all in the living room and they were starting to talk shit about the rich family.
Yeah.
And the dad was like, hey, they're nice, all right? Let's just leave it at that.
But the daughter makes the point that they're nice because they can kind of afford to be nice, right?
Yeah, right.
And a lot of films kind of skip over the fact that when you're rich, if you're born into wealth, you never really know anything else, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So for a lot of wealthy people, there's an ignorance that comes with the wealth, right?
Right.
Whereas with the poor, you can tell these people are geniuses.
They obviously
are geniuses, but they don't have the means to go about it in the same way.
Another thing, if you're hearing another noise, we are in the basement right now. True to the form of the movie,
yes.
As the poor people we are in the basement. Of course,
we can always, in post,
hopefully
clean this up at least a little bit.
Yes.
Well, anyways, continue on, Boo.
Yeah, so it's less about inherently portraying the rich as evil and the poor as good, right?
Right.
Because oftentimes it kind of comes off as condescending to the poor.
Right.
But it's more, and I talked to our friend Brandon about this, it's more about the rat race, right?
Yeah, right.
And how if you're poor, and when we say poor, these people are letting their house get fumigated while they're in it.
Yeah.
For free. So they can
get rid of the stink bugs.
Right.
Yeah. Like, we're talking poor, right? They go out of their way to fuck over the other workers with this family, right?
Yeah. Other people who are probably not well off after what happens to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
To get in that position.
Yeah.
And see, there's that question of, okay, At what point do you feel that the family kind of crossed some sort of line?
Well, here's the thing. So the
We should just answer his question.
well, okay, I do want to answer your question,
Yeah.
and but I want to preface that first with the fact that we learn about halfway through the movie that the previous housemaid has also been swindling the main rich people as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
And so I think that goes in line with what you're saying, Booth, with that whole rat race that the poor have to try to get that money. And so at what point do I think that they cross the line? Well, I mean, it's hard to say because here's the thing. They were able to get to their positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure, some of their means of getting there were vile, lying about the head mistress of the house having tuberculosis.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like was kind of crossing a line, right? But it's hard for me to say where exactly they crossed the line because it goes back to that rat race. You know, they succeeded in taking over that house and making it a part of their status.
Okay, Rob?
That was a really bad answer. It depends on the point of view you take. As an outsider looking in, which is somebody watching a film, I would say probably when the driver Yoon, when he loses his job, because Mino gives the first guy the job. They call him Kevin. I'm just gonna call him Kevin. And the sister gets her job, and it's kind of like sleazy the way she gets it. They call her Jessica. She also gets her job in a sleazy manner, but it's not like anybody. They didn't take anything from anyone who didn't have enough to give away. The rich people have enough to afford an art teacher. It's not like they're fucking over somebody else's job. But the driver, they even ask this later in the film, do you think he found a job? And then the son tries to comfort, I think the dad asked?
Yes.
Yeah.
He tries to comfort him by saying, oh, he's good looking and has a nice physique. Of course he found a job. And then the dad says, like, almost justifies what they did by saying, yeah, probably a better job.
Right.
So I think that's about where the line gets crossed as an outsider looking in.
Yes.
Because
See,
that's where the first person is. Their life is now probably ruined, or at least substantially worse.
I agree. For me, the driver was the line because, like you, see, the reason I asked the question is because I feel most people like us will say that's where the line was, right?
Because we're
Except
outsiders
for me.
looking in.
Some people might say, "Oh, well, they forged documents to begin with,
Yeah.
right? So it was already sleazy and illegal, so to speak." But we don't think that's a big deal.
And I understand that, yes, in the world, forgery is a big deal. Anyways, I don't think, because that's, using your wits to get ahead, something.
Yes.
He gets the job regardless of the documentation.
No, she did say that.
The wife says that I don't care about documentation.
Right.
Mino's recommendation, you're in.
Right.
So, yes, they forged the documents, and I could see how some people would say that's bad, but regardless, he got the job.
See, and the sister lied about her credentials.
Yeah.
See,
But it's an art
I'm
teacher
saying,
portfolio.
yes. See, what I'm saying is, we see it from the perspective of, oh, you got to get that money. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's-
mean?
Right.
And these people are rich enough.
Because from the perspective of the law, the line should have been drawn right at the very first. All right, the forgery of the documents. If someone were a true law-abiding citizen,
Yes.
all right, they would have been like, oh, well, that's where I draw the line. He's forging documents, trying to get a recommendation into teaching this chick's English.
So
Yeah.
already we're about working class people, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
working class people.
That's
yes.
about where our perspective comes from,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And
So I guess our moral, if you were to try to big picture it, is as long as you're not screwing someone else over, then does it really matter?
You're right. Yeah.
Except for Silas, he didn't answer the question,
Well, okay. So
and you can't answer now because it's too late.
No, I kind of still stand with it because in the world of the poor, it's dog eat dog world. All right, so whether what they did was right or not, they still succeeded.
No, I know, but I'm just saying you didn't answer the question.
That's true. Yeah.
So we said that the rich were kind of treated well, but they're ignorantly insensitive a lot, right?
Well,
like the dad with the
yeah,
smell
the
stuff,
smell,
or
yeah.
the rich
Right.
dad with the smell stuff, and just little remarks like, "Oh, thank fuck, it rained
Or,
really hard."
You can see it really hard, and obviously their son's having a seizure, but they don't even care. And like I said, spoiler city was
Yes.
10 minutes ago. they don't even care that Jessica, the daughter of the Kims, right? That's the last name. The daughter of the Kims and the art teacher of the boy got stabbed.
Yes.
And they don't even care. Like, the dad's trying to apply pressure to the wound, and the Parks don't care. They're like, give me the goddamn keys. We're getting our son to the hospital.
Right.
They don't even, it's just nothing to them. So that's obvious ignorance of the lower class. They're lower class, who cares?
Yes. On that level, like, I would say its critiques of, like, capitalism are, like, it kind of wears it on its sleeve, right? Like,
A little bit, yeah.
I wouldn't say it's too...
The Parks definitely had some plot armored with them, like being that ignorant towards things. Like, oh yeah, we're just not going to mention it. We're not going to bring it up when we fire the lady.
Actually, this is in no way a flex. I talk to a lot of people of wealth just from my job. I do a lot of work in people of wealth's houses, and that's kind of how they are.
Really?
Yeah, when they talk about, like, because obviously I'm a new IT person,
Right.
and when they're talking about their old IT person, that's kind of how they talk about it. Just
Really?
like,
Okay.
they're like, oh, well, we had some minor differences, and, like, stuff like that, or like, oh, well, he quit, is very common. I don't want to say, I know what happened to their last IT guy, because
You're
he
the one
used,
replacing him.
yeah, and I just know him as a person, and I'm not going to put him on blast on our podcast, but I know what
Shout
happened.
out to that guy.
Yeah, I know what happened, and I know they know what happened, so it's weird.
When they tell you something that's an obvious lie.
Yeah. Some of them are like, he moved out of state. I can Google the guy's name and tell you he didn't move out of state.
Well, then,
Right.
then maybe it is a matter of richness that they're like.
I'm not saying-
We'll just keep the long story out of it.
Yeah.
We'll lie about it and make sure that it doesn't cause any problems.
And I'm not saying that's always. I'm just saying a lot of experiences I've had, that's just kind of how it goes.
And
Right.
it's worth remembering, too, the Kims, while they did kind of bullshit their way into their jobs, they did their jobs.
Yeah, they did their
They
job.
did their
jobs
job,
and
well.
they did them well.
Well,
Yeah.
except for the dad who smelled. And
Well,
like
that didn't
that's
stop him from doing his job well.
that's very
he
true.
drove the car well.
Yeah.
Right, but
it was actually the daughter who probably bullshitted the hardest.
Yeah.
Oh, about the arts.
Because she doesn't.
Well, it's also art.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
there you go.
R.I.P. art majors. But the
Shout out
Park-
to all of our art majors.
yeah, the Park dad, I forgot his first name.
Uh,
Exactly.
Yeah.
He even says when they're right before the very weird not sex scene that he doesn't care about the smell because he's so good at his job.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
I
he
did
like
say that.
slides that in and he's like, yeah, he smells, but he knows the roads or whatever.
Right.
So.
And he doesn't cross the line. But
Yeah,
the,
he
the
doesn't.
smell was the only thing that crossed
Yeah,
the
the
line.
smell crossed the line, but him himself did not.
It's funny
cross the
that
line.
they also kind of fetishize the poor without actually having to live that lifestyle. Because during that sex
They
scene,
did.
he's like,
Oh, go grab
Well,
those
you-
crusty underwear.
Yeah.
And
like, buy me drugs.
buy me drugs.
Yeah, they said put on the cheap panties.
Yeah.
It'll get me really hard. So
Wow.
they did fetishize the poor a lot, actually. And that it was like 40 seconds.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit more. But they really did. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
So, Boof, you said that this was a cinematic masterpiece for two reasons, right?
Yes. So the first one was like it has a clear message that's executed well, and it doesn't never feels preachy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it
like
definitely
it's
does.
obvious, and it's key to your understanding of the film and your enjoyment of the film, right?
Right.
And before I move to the next point, I also want to say it's reinforced through a lot of visual things as well. Like the rich family lives on the top of this hill,
Yes, yeah.
or live all the way on the bottom.
They live literally under.
Yeah,
Ground. Sub-basement,
they live
yeah.
in the bottom of the bottom.
Right.
And it also touches upon, this is something we don't think about as Americans as much, but we will probably think about it more as time progresses, is how climate actually fucks the poor over much harder than the rich.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
the second that monsoon hits, they're like,
Well, okay.
done.
If you want to think about it in real terms, realistically, right now, if you want to get real gray zone, it's snowing outside. We're in Michigan, and where do you think homeless people go?
Exactly.
Fair point. Very fair
So,
point.
we don't think about it as much, but it's there.
But yeah, it's still there, and they do a really good job at showing it without saying it.
You know, and all the muted colors that the poor are shown in versus the rich colors.
They have
of
that
the-
beautiful window with the great sunlight.
Yeah.
Oh, very, very.
And how you only ever see the rich family go up the stairs, and the only time the poor go up the stairs in the house is when they're accompanied by the rich.
You do see the daughter come down the stairs twice.
Yes, you only ever see them come down, like the kid at the very end with the
Yeah.
rock, he's going down. You see the when they're trying to head out of the house, they're all heading down the stairs.
Right.
Like it's little things like that.
Now that you point that out, I'm running through it. And
Oh,
yeah,
you see the
you're
rich,
absolutely right.
One of the rich kids come down the stairs 2 times in the movie.
But that was
But
that
it's
was the
very-
boy that was kind of the bridge between.
No, it was the girl.
Was it the girl?
Yeah, she comes downstairs looking for Kevin.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
but see, she's coming down the stairs looking
For
for
the poor, yeah.
for her poor boy.
Yeah.
Where is the poor? I need him.
But
and
yeah,
she saves his life, which means she is the only rich person to help a poor person in the film.
so
It's true.
through
Very
like
true.
the plot itself and a lot of visual things, the film's message and intent is pretty clear, and the director's been pretty clear about the film being a critique of capitalism. Like
Yes.
he's explicitly stated that. But the second thing, and this is what I alluded to earlier about a lot of films with these kinds of messages kind of being dry and boring a lot
Yeah.
of the times, is that even if you remove the message,
It's a fun movie.
It's a really
It's a
fun movie.
great film,
It is.
entertaining film. It's funny. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's funny in a non-grating way.
It's got
Yeah.
dark humor.
It's very
It's
dark
got- yeah,
humor.
it's got a little bit of dark humor. It's got some funny. I kind of wish that there were more scenes of them trying to do their everyday stuff, but it was a long movie in and of itself.
Yeah, it was still 2 hours.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the plot in general, or can I ask a question?
Ask a
Go for
question.
it, please.
What was your favorite quote in the movie?
Oh,
You can go first, Boof, or I can go if you want me to.
Yeah.
I really like they're in a gym, and before they get to their house, because there's a flood and their house is in a basement, so their house is flooded. The dad mutters he's got a plan.
Oh, this was
And,
my favorite
and
line.
the kids just kind of are like, okay, whatever, because they go to the house and they get their shit, and then they're in the gym, and the son asks, "Dad, what's your plan?" And then the dad goes on like I want to say a 45-second to a minute and a half monologue. Mm-hmm. Is that that's right, John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he talks about how he doesn't have a plan, because if you have a plan, it'll never end that way.
Yeah.
So the best plan, the plan that never fails, is no plan, because how can something fail if it never existed? And that, like, obviously I'm paraphrasing, but he says it really well. It's like really eloquent the way he says it. And I just thought it was great.
Wasn't there a league player that had the same mantra?
There,
Or
there,
league
there,
team?
there is a league player who has the same mantra. His name is I'm a cutie pie, and the quote is, how is the other team going to stop me in what I'm doing if I don't even know what I'm doing?
that's fucking priceless.
It's a really good
I'm
message.
not gonna lie.
Like, in my
Yeah.
opinion, it's a great message. And I really like the way the dad said it was just, like I said, it was eloquent. It was beautiful.
He and you can also tell with that speech why he's the one who snaps.
Yeah.
Because he's the oldest and the most experienced in this kind of poverty, right?
Yeah.
And he keeps getting prodded.
Yeah,
And when
yeah.
you realize, oh, this is his mindset because he's been fucked over
Yeah,
hard.
he's just been fucked over his whole
Yeah,
life.
you tell from like all the different stores and shops I've worked at that have gone under.
Yeah. Do you have one?
So I don't remember the exact
Obvi-
quote.
it doesn't have to be
but
exact, just-
It's when they were talking in the living room, and I forget if it's the mom or the dad, or they kind of trade off these lines. But essentially, they're like, their money acts as an iron that helps crease out all of the.
That was the sister and the dad, wasn't it?
No,
Sis-
it was the mother and the dad.
It was
Because
the
the
mother?
mother shouts about how, if I had that much money, I would be that nice. In fact,
I'd be
nicer.
nicer.
I'd be nicer. So it's the mom and the dad
Yeah.
are swapping that dialogue off.
Yeah, and essentially, they're like, the money creases over a lot of
Right.
flaws and
Yeah.
stuff and issues because, like I mentioned earlier, when you have that much money, you get to sort of isolate yourself from a lot of the world's problems.
Yeah, you don't. Do you worry about food? No, you're rich. You don't even minorly worry about food. Not saying any of us worry about food, but
Yeah.
they don't even think about it. They have
Right.
a guy who grocery shops for them or with,
Or with them, right?
Yeah. And this is what I was mentioning earlier, is that the rich family also kind of acts as a parasite on the poor family because they need them there.
Yeah, they
Right.
have, I think it's like a day or 2 days without the housewife.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, it's going to turn
And-
into a mess.
No, you see it turn into a mess. You saw the mom,
Oh, yeah, the mom
park
part?
mom
Yeah.
was trying to like do the dishes or something, and she was like pulling. It looked like she was pulling underwear out of a big pot.
Yeah.
So you saw the house. It was a day or 2 days.
And
The house just
was
went to
just a
shit.
mess.
Like the rich family couldn't care for themselves
It's
at all.
funny that this is kind of on a tangent on the quote thing, but
That's the
because
point.
we're on the line.
Yeah.
It's funny that when everyone watches the movie, obviously you think immediately, oh, the term parasite refers to the poor family and the rich family, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny that we don't really view it in the opposite way until you think about it a little harder.
Yeah.
That
So
the rich is actually the parasite off the poor.
Well, they're equal.
Right.
Like they're
Symbiotic.
yeah.
yes, so it's fun, but we don't really think about it. We're not really taught to think about it that way. So it's a
No.
little
Yeah.
interesting thing of how we learn how capitalism works.
Right.
But anyway.
Well, you guys both stole my favorite quotes, but I would have to say that my third favorite quote is when the dad, Kim, is driving the dad, Park, and Kim was like, so your wife, do you love her? And then Park was like silent for a little bit. He's like, yeah, you know, she does this and that, whatever. We'll call it love. And it's like, she's a good-looking woman, right? The mom, Park.
Yeah.
And then the dad, Park's a successful businessman. They have a nice place to go. Like, do you think that the love that actually existed there?
Well, they have an active sex life, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, sex is different.
Yes.
All right, sex is different. You can have sex all you want and not love the person.
That's no, that's true.
It was just another thing to look at, like the richness and how they actually treat themselves within their own community.
It's weird because, and also I want to quickly preface with, we don't know the names because they say them very little and they're all very similar, and that's not a rip on Korean names. They are.
We're just dumb.
Oh yeah, we are. There's like Dasuk or something. But
Dasuk.
plus we were reading them and then listening to them,
Yeah.
and their native accent's different than ours.
Yes.
What I wanted to say about love is the most obvious picture of love in that movie is the original housemaid and her husband.
Yes.
She cared for him in the basement for 4 years, 7 months, and 13 days.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
They can't remember, but it is June now.
Yeah. Oh, it's true now. But yeah, so that's very interesting that you pointed that out, because it seems like the most active love life in that was the poor.
The poorest.
Right, the poorest. The people swindling the house owners right from under them.
Or, like literally right from under them.
it's
And
the fun.
originally. The original
Yeah.
swindlers. As far as
And
we know.
yeah, like the most distant relationship is the richest,
Yeah.
right? Although we do see that the dad and the son have like
The
they're
dad and the
pretty
son have a good bond, yeah.
Yes.
So do we want to talk about
So-
the plot?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say that the film's funny and stuff, right? Like
Right,
this
it's
part I
got
would
some
say it's
humor.
like a great film outside of all the implications.
Yeah.
It's funny, but when the switch goes off, I remember I was sitting next to our friend Khalil,
Yeah,
and he was like,
it switches hard.
the tone of this movie suddenly got really different really quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the film gives you so many false leads.
Right.
There's little like red flags that don't end up happening. Like the big one for me was when the daughter is getting the info from the rich mom on when she calls that the care card,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, we need your government IDs and your like the
Yeah,
title to
you
your
think
house
they're going
and
to take the
stuff."
house over.
Yeah.
And you
real.
think
That's what
that's
I said.
where
I thought it was going to happen.
when the Park or the Kims are in the mansion, your mind is kind of like at this point, okay, where's the film gonna go?
Yeah.
Right.
And it goes somewhere it's
Completely
unexpected,
different
Yeah.
Completely
from
different.
all the flags that the film set
so,
up for you.
do you have any other red flags you want to mention before we...
There were a couple more that I'm forgetting, but there were other ones.
yeah, because there was a few... do you have any?
I don't remember any off the top of them right now. I
there,
can think about
there's
them.
more,
The-
but that's the big one for me.
The one that I thought was going to end up being... Like, I thought a different issue was going to arise with the Kim son and the Park daughter. The Park daughter is underaged, and as far as I think she is. I'm pretty sure she is.
What's
Anyways,
age of consent in Korea?
and how old is that girl? I don't...
Sophomore.
She's sophomore in high school, so that would put around 14, 15?
15, 16.
15, 16.
Anyways, they're having essentially in a relationship,
All right.
but it's like a secret. And there's a part where they're in the room together, and I thought that was going to end up being like found out about.
The age of consent. in South Korea is 20 years old.
Well,
So it's a
that's
very
illegal.
illegal relationship.
Very illegal.
Whoa.
That's.
I thought that was going to be part of the original issue.
I also thought that, okay, so when I was talking to Brandon Khalil after we left the movie, I heard some things that I didn't think about. I can see other people think, excuse me, especially if you're going to the movie blind and with a title like Parasite. One of them mentioned, oh, I thought like The Rock was some mythical
thing. It was gonna
thing.
turn them like it was gonna be a mythical.
For a minute, I thought the kid was the littlest kid, the Park son, was possessed.
Yes.
Like he was going to end up being the pivotal plot point of the movie.
And that's part of not knowing what genre of film it is.
Yeah.
But you realize quickly, like, okay, the movie's not that trite. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not gonna go for...
It wasn't cheesy.
Yeah.
It didn't take any like aliens gag. You know.
Yeah.
Which, looking at the title, I thought it was going to be like, and then seeing the first scenes where it's like the fumigation coming in, the guy throwing up, that drunk bastard outside. Like, I thought that guy was going to have a pivotal point too. But again, that's another false lead.
You know what I find funny about the guy, the drunk guy, is it's kind of foreshadowing because they're poor, they're okay with being fumigated, but you know what they won't stand? A guy pissing on their house. And their house gets flooded in piss.
Yes.
Ah.
And actually, in that scene, since you mentioned it, I want to bring up real quick, because I didn't think about it until the second time. Because I was also like, as Silas mentioned, that the Kim Sung son should be dead as shit.
Oh, he should be roasted.
Oh yeah, double tapped in the head with a mythical rock.
But then I
quote-unquote.
realized you'll see in that scene that the rock is floating. So it's actually
doesn't
not as
have a
heavy
lot of
as you
weight.
might think.
Oh yeah, it might be
Look at you, Boof, with
It's
your
hollow.
movie degree and everything.
the type of stone starts with a P, but it looks like that, like real jagged, but it floats.
So
I can
it's hollow, I assume.
Well, yeah.
It's either hollow on the inside or just not that
It's
heavy to
got
begin
weight,
with.
and then when he dropped it on the stairs, it didn't shatter,
Yeah.
which...
Pumice. It's pumice.
Hummus.
This is exactly. Isn't that what it looks like in?
It didn't have all those holes in it, though. That's the difference.
It had some, but it would probably have been smoothed out. It had like a weird texture to it.
In any case, though, it was a light stone for the most part. Even though Min, in the very beginning, was like, oh, yeah, this is a present, and it's very heavy.
Yeah. Oh.
So, the exact weight of the stone, I'm sure someone can go figure out
Yes, you know
if that rock was actually heavy enough and should have killed
it
someone.
has like some little divots in it. They're not crazy, but
Yeah, well, that rock definitely was the most mystical part of that movie for its weight.
Yes.
Regardless of whether it was hollow or not, it didn't kill him after two hits to the head.
Yes.
well, you're right. It floated, so
It
it makes
float.
sense. It can't be. I mean, unless it's got crazy buoyancy.
And it
but-
didn't break either. So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
It didn't break at all during the film. That guy's eyes at that one
Dude,
scene.
it was so creepy.
That was creepy.
They show this flashback of the husband.
No, not the husband. Or no, the
It
husband
is
of the housekeeper. I'm sorry.
The husband of the housekeeper, of the original housekeeper.
Yes.
Coming up the stairs, and the youngest son of the Park family sees it, and I shit my pants.
Like, oh, that's creepy.
It was creepy. They
Eyes
made
really
him
wide.
look horrifying.
Yeah, well, his eyes were really wide open. It's like, yeah.
See, that's the second part of the film, is like, at the beginning, it's really comedic and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny.
Like, ah,
Then, the second the
trying to
housekeeper
swindle.
shows up again,
Yeah,
you're
that-
like, there's a big...
That's the mood shift. The second she shows up, the whole mood shifts. Because you think, oh, they're caught, they're in trouble. But actually, she's also in trouble.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, that there was the constant raising of the stakes throughout the film, in
Yeah.
the sense of, in the beginning, with the son and the daughter, the Kim son and the daughter getting those jobs, you're like, okay, the absolute worst that can happen is that they go to jail, right?
Right.
But as they add the mom and the dad, the chances for things to go wrong increases like exponentially,
Yeah.
right? The more opportunities there are for them to get found out,
Yes.
and there being a big chain reaction throughout the entire family. See, the reason I bring this up is because I thought it was kind of contrived, the fact that, oh, the only way to keep this plot going is for to have the entire family trip down the stairs and get seen by the old housekeeper, right?
And-
You might see that and be like, oh, that's kind of contrived, right?
Yeah.
But then I realized it's the kind of culmination of their plans, right?
Right.
Is,
They tripped into it all.
well, not just that, but because there was the constant piling up of potential fuck-ups, all in that situation, all it would take is for them to trip down those stairs and everything go to shit.
Yeah.
And it did. And that's exactly what happened.
And according to chemistry and the laws of thermodynamics, they were bound to fuck up sooner or later.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I think that there should have, like, I thought that there would have been like a hey, listen, let's make a deal. You can live here and whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I was waiting for the deal to come.
That was like, maybe that's a cultural thing. I don't know, but like my first immediate reaction to that was like, okay, the dad's gonna make a deal with the housemaid, and they're gonna be like, okay, well, we're gonna
Yeah, like both of them live in the basement.
Well,
the wife and the husband, the original housemaid and the husband, both live in the basement and both get taken care of by the new. I thought that was going to happen.
Well, see, and that goes along the lines of, like, the name of the movie, Parasite. Like, a parasite
continue
enters
to be a parasite.
Well, right, a parasite enters the host, right, and instead of compromising itself to be removed from the host, they'll try to live in a symbiotic relationship, bringing up that word again, with the other parasite in the host, and then eventually duke it out to try to see which one's going to take it over. But they're not going to, like, it's just my personal thought, like, if I were swindling some rich family, I wouldn't want to be found out, right?
Yeah.
And so my immediate thing is, okay, well, I'm going to try to stay in this line that I'm working with, and then, we'll make a deal.
On that, I found it weird that, like, it makes sense, but I found it weird how the old housemaid held over the four of them so much. Like, yes, but both parties are wrong. But she was like, oh, you guys are so fucked. But, like, also, those two were fucked, too. So I don't know why they were so mean. Like,
So I think that's part of the rat race aspect of
Yeah,
it, is that the
right.
second that a weakness was found, immediately exploit it.
Immediately.
Just like they did to her with the peaches.
Yeah.
The second they found a single chink in the armor, they
went
for it.
For the piercing blow.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I just thought, like, and it is. It's the rat race aspect. We all six can't survive here, so it's either us or them.
Yes.
Right.
And I held up 2 and 4. I realized that this is a microphone and no one could tell.
He held up, yeah. Okay.
So, Silas hit on something that I kind of wanted to mention,
What?
which is culture.
Culture, yes.
Obviously, this is not our culture,
Not at all.
so it's not quite something we can always speak on, but you said something at the end about the snapping.
Of the
The
dad?
dad, yeah.
Well, I
While
thought...
we were watching the film.
Oh, I was wondering why the father decided, like, I feel like everything would have been clean for them had the dad not went ahead and murdered.
Well, their daughter still would have died.
Yes. And I think that was inevitable. But then again, he did have that respect. Respect!
Yeah, so
He wanted that respect, he wanted that pride. And so when the dad was, like, smelling, he's waving his hand in front of his face, smelling, it seemed like the Kim father snapped.
Yes.
And was like, okay, well, I'm gonna kill the son of a bitch. And I don't get that, because, like, okay, well, that's a sure way to get yourself, in a lot of trouble. And acting as thinking about it from a parasitic point of view, like, you don't want to kill your host.
yeah.
I think at that point, he's watching his daughter die in front of him. He sees that as far as he knows, his son is dead,
Yeah.
being carried by the park girl.
Daughter, yeah.
Which,
And
props to her.
this has been
doing
building up
squats.
throughout the. It's been building up throughout the film, right? And you see a flash of it when he grabs his wife in the living room, right?
Yeah.
Now they play it off as a gag, but you can kind of see in that moment. There's like, oh, there's a bit of like edge to this guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He doesn't like the fact that he smells.
Yeah,
Or that
his family's being disrespected. And I told Silas about something I hear a lot about, again, back to watching a lot of Korean esports.
Our cultural tome here,
Yeah,
Rob,
well,
watching
that's why
League of Legends.
That's why I preface with, it's something I hear, but I can't say is for sure.
Right.
And they talk about a lot, especially in all Korean teams. Age is a big deal in Korea, where the eldest is to be respected regardless.
Right.
So for instance, in Korea, even if you're not the best player on the esports team, right?
You get most respect.
SKT is a big one. Faker is obviously their best player, but he was younger than another player, and he respected the other player, even though the player is worse. The culture is a lot different, than our culture. So
Right, and the Kim dad was, obviously the oldest in the cast, so maybe that goes along line with that.
maybe the housewife, but the original housemaid. But
well, in that scene,
yeah. Out of the Park dad and the Kim dad,
Yeah.
the Park dad's very disrespectful because he talks about how bad he smells. Obviously, he doesn't think he hears it, but then he wafts when he's got the keys. His kids are probably dead, and it all just kind of piles in, and he stabs them.
It's interesting that you bring up the cultural aspect, because I was wondering to myself, why is this the movie that broke? I mean, obviously there's been a lot of foreign films that have done well in America, right? But why was this the one to really break through, to win that Best Picture at the Oscars, right? Like, why was this the one that really resonated with people? And I thought about it, and I was like, I think it's because it's probably one of the least that has to do with Korean culture itself. Because the themes resonate throughout the entire world.
Yeah, every culture understands rich and poor. It's a dichotomy everybody knows, right? The smallest Korean culture thing in there, which is something we all understand anyways, is the respect. We just don't, in America, we don't follow the same scale.
Well, I hear there was some, little things, right? For example, you see them drinking beer near the beginning of the film, right?
Yeah.
A certain brand. Once they start making money, you can actually say they upgraded to a better brand of beer.
Also, when he goes to drink with his friend, they drink sojo.
Sojo? Oh, okay.
Instead of beer.
So you can kind of see there's an escalate, little things like that that we might not notice. But as far as, the themes of the work go, it's very universal.
Yeah, it's something, like I said, any culture should understand the difference between rich and poor and, the struggle. Obviously, if you're rich, you don't quite as much understand the rat race, and if you're poor, you don't understand the ignorance of being rich.
Yes.
You can see it and observe it and quote-unquote understand it, but unless you live it, it's not something you fully get.
Right.
Isn't that right, Pencil?
I think we're kind of coming to a
we're
culmination.
coming to a conclusion,
Is there final thoughts?
Well, I guess I'll start. I think that, everything that we touched on, it is a good movie about class difference, the struggle of classes and, the underminings of the poor to try to usurp the rich. It concluded pretty well. Again, don't know about whether that dad should have snapped and killed that other dad. Again, I guess that's just a catharsis, right? Overall, I thought it was a really good film. Definitely worthy of whatever award it got.
Best Picture.
Best Picture, yes.
Well, it won a bunch of awards.
Yeah, it won a shit ton, but Best Picture is the big deal.
Yes.
Well, they're all big. All Oscars are a big deal, but Best Picture is the big deal.
He also won the Palme d'Or, or however it's pronounced, at Cannes.
Yes, because I know that one too.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah,
Go for it, Rob.
I guess.
My final thoughts would be, go watch the movie. No, it was really good. The cinematography was really good. It looked nice. Had a good plot, easy enough to follow, surprising enough unless you've listened to this whole podcast and you haven't seen the film yet. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just want to note, there's a daydream sequence at the end, and I just want to know, does that happen, does that not happen? We will never know, because it wouldn't make sense to make a sequel to this movie.
I think, the director went on record on saying, we all know that kid's not going to make it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot. I'm pretty sure the dad's fucked.
But you can also say the kid may have come up with a different plan to get his dad out.
Yeah.
Well, he came up
Well,
with
the dad can leave whenever he wants. It's just a question of what do you do afterwards? Because he's a wanted man.
Wanted criminal, yeah.
I think between the clear but strong message and just being a good comedy thriller drama thing defies.
It's got a lot.
Um,
It's got a lot of tags.
Yes.
I was laughing at the beginning. My butthole was firmly clenched
At the end.
in the second half of the
Oh,
movie.
man. I was on my seat.
I
as well.
was
edge of it.
when I was in the theater. I was like, I spent the entire day before recording this podcast thinking about the movie. It's like very dense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is pretty dense.
It
It's
is.
got a lot of different cinematic tones.
I wish we had more time to unpack it before we recorded, but I like that we didn't because
We got
it's
it
fresh,
overall,
raw
baby.
thoughts,
Yeah. I also want to shout out the editing in this film.
Editing
The
was
editing,
phenomenal.
the editing in the scene where they're getting the housekeeper out, like that entire 5-6 minute sequence, masterclass of they need to show any college class that's teaching editing, show that scene.
Are you talking about the one at the end?
No, the
No,
one where, sprinkling the peaches on.
Yeah,
it.
that whole sequence.
Yes,
Yeah, it was done. It was done.
That was really well.
And also, it's a masterclass in writing. It won Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars. It's a firm screenplay where there's not a single wasted line.
Right.
Everything ties back into itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a
So-
complete thought.
Yes.
I think it was a phenomenal film.
Yeah.
Probably the best I saw last year. I will say one last thing is, if you did watch Parasite and you really liked it, and you're looking for a film similar to it, watch Knives Out.
Is Knives
Oh,
Out
it's the
really
one
good
that
too?
recommends at the end.
Yeah.
Yes, Knives Out is a similar film. It's a whodunit crime film, right?
Okay.
But it's another film that's simultaneously really frightening in parts,
Thrilling.
tense, thrilling, really funny, and has a similar theme of class consciousness in a way.
This leads me to the perfect ending.
Yes.
Stay tuned for the next episode of Boof
Silas.
and Rob. You should have said my name when we watch Knives Out and come back and do this again. If that's something you guys are interested in.
Absolutely.
I am interested in watching Knives Out again.
Yes.
So it'll be us three. We'll watch Knives Out and we'll do another one of these.
Yeah, so until next time, please like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you thought. Let us know how you liked the movie too.
Yes. Yeah.
All
Hope
right.
you guys enjoyed our little talk.
Until next time, this was The Gray Zone.